Thank you, and welcome everyone. It's March the 1st. I don't know what that means exactly, except it's March the 1st. Welcome, I'm glad you're here. We are beginning our month of celebrating the feminine. We are celebrating the feminine energy, the divine feminine in all of us, and in particular celebrating Women's Month, so that as the month progresses, we will be honoring the women of our movement, and as well as just taking a look at the history, the present, and the recognition of how important all aspects of the Creator are, including the feminine and the masculine and the combination thereof. So it's going to be an exciting time. If you're with us for the first time, we give you a special welcome. And we'd like you to know that that you are valued, and we'd like to, rather than asking you to stand up or any of that, we just would like to meet you out back afterwards or out front, whichever that is. I'm never sure. To say hello and to have the opportunity to get to know you a little bit. You get to know us. So join me, if you will, for a moment in an opening treatment. There is one power, one light, one life, one expression of life, showing up as all forms, all things, all people, all expressions everywhere. So I know that power moves in as and through me, and in as and through each of us as we step into this celebration time together, as we celebrate life within each of us. We open our hearts and minds to new ideas. We open our hearts and minds to new feelings, to new awareness, as we look to a greater expression of life in our lives. Knowing that that's what is being done here and what is happening for us, I release this now, letting it be the truth. And so it is. Thank you. We are a center that honors and welcomes all people of all shapes and sizes, of backgrounds, wherever you come from, whatever spirituality you've practiced up until this moment. We honor you and we honor that practice. We honor the fact that the Creator, the creation, creates such great variety. And the biggest, greatest idea of oneness, of all being one, is to honor the individual variety of each person. So at its peak, that's how we see it. So we aren't looking to be the same. Although we do like the fact that we're kind of like-minded in some of what we talk about around here. But we're not looking to be the same, to do the same, to act the same. So you're welcome to show up and show off in your finest. We have a couple of guys here in dresses. In kilts. I know they'll get me later. And we're very happy for that, because one's celebrating his birthday and the other is in solidarity. So thank you, gentlemen. It's a great heritage that you are bringing to us. Yes. So there's so many directions to go. I won't do that. Okay, so what I will also say to you is that I want to say this because we're coming up on this a little later, but our mission, our internal mission here, is that we are a sustainable, thriving community, providing safe, inclusive opportunities and tools for personal transformation and spiritual growth. And I would add to that, as we are doing that as a community, and as we are doing personal transformation, we do that, and in the process, we transform the world. One person at a time, one group at a time, one idea at a time. So thank you. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're participating with us. So if you'll join me as we continue to celebrate, we will do so by reading together our Declaration of Principles. This is by our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. And you'll find it on the card or behind me if I can stay out of the way. There we go. I believe in one God, one absolute power, and first cause to all things. I believe that this power is perfect love, and it creates to express love. I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates the personal experience. I believe in the unity of all life, and the immortality of the individual soul forever unfolding. I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal givingness of God to all, and so it is. Thank you. Please be seated. So each week we bring a practitioner forward to share with you a good idea and a spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of affirmative prayer, to change your life. So as Lee comes up to do that, if there's something going on that you want to have some help with or some clarity around, bring that to mind and then see if what he brings you doesn't help or give you some answers on that. So Lee Huffman, thank you. I forgot which way we're going here. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Got a friend that wants me to learn how to do a tango, so there we go. We have to do up here. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you. Yeah, you can teach me? I bet you can. Change. There's so much change going on. And this week has been a big week of it. Many of us knew a good friend, a practitioner, that transitioned last week, and they had the service, and it was truly a celebration service for just Will, Donnie Mathis. It was just amazing. And Susan Zoller was facilitating it, and the room was packed. And I was trying to go through and think about what I would talk about today, what I would read, and I thought, death, transition. And I went into the book that I always go to several different spiritual books, but this one the most, right? Science of Mind textbook. And a lot of those things weren't listed there. They're all sort of intermixed in with different things that are said throughout because they're just part of life. They're part of this body. And I have to wonder why so much change. Now, some change is good. Many of you have noticed how much weight I've lost, and I feel better than what I have in 20 years. I actually had to buy a coat today that would fit, so I didn't want to be up here in those suits that are too big, but that's good stuff. The weather changes. It's beautiful outside now. We've had so much rain. But how do you deal with change? Ernest Holmes in the Science of Mind textbook on page 100 has a paragraph that's titled, "That Which Changes." And I'll start a few words in. Spirit is the absolute being, that it is the only thing in the universe which is self-knowing, which has self-knowingness, volition, and choice or will. The soul is the servant of spirit. It has no choice, no purpose other than to execute the purpose given it. The spirit of the universe cannot change. Being that it is all, there is nothing for it to change into. The soul of the universe must obey the will of spirit. The body of the universe cannot help changing. It's the body that changes. So there's a symbol in the Science of Mind that is a circle, and it has two lines through it, and the top is spirit. It has a number of things that they use a symbol for, but the top is spirit. It is the volition. It is where we decide. The next level is the soul, and all it says is yes to whatever's said to it, whatever it feels, whatever it's told. Then there's a body where all this chaos happens. And I found that in 2 breaths, just taking 2 deep breaths, in first breath I can throw away all the history and all the past, because yesterday ended at midnight. And in the second breath, I can ignore the future and know that it's going to be understood. And I become one with spirit, because I am and you are one in all 3 levels. You are spirit, you are soul, you are body. back to the text, it says, this is what constitutes the eternal activity of spirit within itself. The spirit passing into form, creation, eternally going on. Creation is eternally going on, since spirit must be manifest in order to be conscious. There must be a way in which it manifests, and there must be manifestation. The soul is a way that spirit manifests, and the body is a manifestation. So we have the soul and the body, and the law is how it manifests. I take comfort in the fact that spirit is eternal and does not change, and that I and each of you are part of spirit. Know this with me, if you will, as we go into spiritual mind treatment, which is simply an affirmative prayer that we speak and we believe. You've already heard one and said one in the service today. But join me in another, and I will say this in the first person because I'm treating my mind, which is part of the universal mind, just like yours is. And in that treatment, I know the truth, and this is the truth that I feel today. There is only one. There is only one spirit. There is only one being. There is one spirit which has one soul, which creates one body. I am part of that spirit. Spirit out of love created, replicated itself out of itself, and made all the things around me, all the people around me. It made me. So I have far more power than what I know. Change is the essence of the body. It is the essence of life. As much as we cannot understand it at times, it is what existence is all about. I know that change works for my good. I know that my thoughts direct the change around me. So I choose to think things that are wonderful. I choose to think, and more than that, to know that I have power. I have power to heal my body and my heart and the world around me. I have power to see things that are beautiful and wonderful around me. I have power to attract wonderful, meaningful things into my life. Spirit will always survive change. Even the change of death, it cannot change spirit. And we are all, and I am, spirit. So I celebrate change. I celebrate life. I celebrate love. And I celebrate those around me who know the truth. So I release these words knowing that all is good and all is well and all is peaceful and all is love. And together we say, so it is.
So it is.
Thank you.
So March is celebrating the feminine, celebrating women. And we're starting off today by talking about the divine feminine. Now, I recognize as I was sitting here that we are celebrating the feminine, and we just had a stage full of big white guys. So I apologize for that. We will rectify that going forward in the month. Not that there's anything wrong with us. I can vouch for one of the white guys up here, that's me, that has a huge, powerful energy that is the divine feminine. You know, children recognize us before we ever know what to think. My daughter, from the time she was teeny tiny, when she first started talking, called me Mama. I tried to get that changed. So did her mama. But she called us both Mama. So she knew something I didn't know at that time, and that was I was really embodying that divine feminine without making any attempt or attention to it. The divine feminine we're talking about today, and the approach to this is that it is not about sex. It's not about what gender you are, because the divine feminine is present in all creation. It is a part of everything, in every movement, in every place. And it's almost a little bit, the whole thing of masculine and feminine is a bit of an artificial delineation. And we're seeing that now as our young people are coming forward and saying, I'm non-binary. And we're going to talk about that later in the month, a little more detail. Non-binary. So you say, what pronouns do you want to use? And they say, they. That takes some getting used to. It's good because, and more young folks are looking at these optional ways of understanding themselves as far as sexuality and gender identity is concerned. But however you identify yourself, whether it's male, female, he, she, we, they, the presence of the divine feminine and the divine masculine in you, as you, creating you, is always there. You didn't do anything to stop it. You can't cut it off. You can't shut it off. It's there, and it's always there, and will continue to be. We've all been trained to see God as a male. Maybe you haven't, but I was. The guy in the sky with the white beard that hands out, pluses and minuses and gives you rewards and punishments and all of that. Very falsified version of Christianity, but it's the one that is in the culture pretty much. So which is why it's really important that we talk about the divine feminine here in this setting, and in all settings. This is a theme going on all across our nation and the world in our centers right now in this month. That we are looking and acknowledging this because we want to bring balance to the imbalance that we've lived in, at least in this culture, for a very, very long time. I grew up in a household with mostly females. And I had mothers and aunts and all of that. Most of the men were not around or they had passed on. So I never doubted that God was a woman. That was just kind of always a thing in me, or that the power in our home and in our household came through the feminine, not through the masculine. It was a rich and wonderful thing for me to experience that in a different way, a matriarchy of sorts. See, God is androgynous. Both masculine and feminine are there. The ancient Kabbalah story of creation, the Kabbalah is the Jewish mysticism, has the story goes like this. In the beginning was nothing. And then the nothingness, the abyss, began to move upon itself. And it began to press against itself. And as it did so, in response to that, there was the pushing and the pulling and the receiving and the giving and the taking, and sound began to be created out of that. As the energy of the abyss rubbed against itself, it created sound. Just like all sound, just most of the sounds that we know about are created by friction between one part or another. And out of that sound came the Word. And as the Word became clear and strong, out of the Word came creation. You see a hint of that in the Old Testament, when it talks about the Word. In the beginning, the New Testament, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, and the Word was synonymous with God. So creation stories include this idea of the masculine and feminine. The ancient Hebrew peoples didn't have the version that we have of what we think they thought. Yeah. What they had was pre-English translation, that the Old Testament, those parts that are the Jewish Bible, God was expressed as masculine and feminine, depending on which word you used. El, Elohim, Eloheinu. One was masculine, one was feminine, and one was generic, across the board, androgynous. So they didn't carry all of that stuff that we got later, when whatever happened that created this fear of the feminine energy that began to create and develop in the world. And it happened when the goddesses rule supreme in ancient history, and they began to be replaced by gods. It was like on the divine level, humanity seemed to have a struggle going with that. And you see the results of it today in the world with the abuses that go on and the horrors that go on. So what I want to do today and talk about today is to take this a little further into how do we honor the divine feminine within us? What can we do with that, and how do we take that into our everyday lives? We all have masculine qualities and feminine qualities, and we all have different labels that we put on those. One of the challenges in talking about this is when we talk about masculine and feminine, it's hard to do it outside of the culture. Because our culture, depending on which part of the culture you're in, has very different definitions of those things. But what seems to be kind of a universal awareness is that the masculine energy is that energy which moves, which pushes forward into creating things. And the feminine energy is the part that receives and says thank you, says yes. The masculine energy is that energy which allows us to assert ourselves into the world, to do affirmations, to do treatments, to create something new. You want more prosperity in your life, you do a treatment for it, right? You assert, this is the thing I want to have. Now, I will tell you that I'm generalizing, and at least half of you are going to think that I'm totally wrong, and that's okay. Because I'm giving you the best knowledge we have, because this is cutting-edge stuff. We are just beginning to open up and wake up to the power of this newness that's coming. Talking about change, this newness that's coming up. So I'm giving you my version, and I invite and encourage you to see what's your version. What's the masculine, feminine energy in you? Do you see where you're on the other side of that, where you do assert yourself, you move forward, you do things in a different way? Or you try to create and make things happen? Or the feminine qualities of openness and receptivity, of nurture? And again, I'm not talking about genders, I'm talking about energy within each of us. Beautiful nurturing can happen by both men and women as we look and we nurture each other. Where is that for you? What's the nurturing side of you guys? Sometimes it's, with the guys, we tend to not look at that as quickly because we're guys. But where is it? Because you've all got it. I know you well enough. We stand around here and talk to know that goes on, and you have that rich quality about you, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. And in the women, where is that masculine strength that lets you move forward? Right? You got it. I know you do. You talk about it. I see you. Some of you more so than others. But we look at how we embody those two energies and look for balance. Because creation is about balance. And when we aren't in balance as one or the other, often when we have challenges in our lives, often when we have troubles in our lives. Harriet Tubman says, every great dream begins with a dreamer. always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars, to change your world. And we do that utilizing those different aspects of the energy and power and consciousness within us. Both the male, the female, the masculine, the feminine energies. We bring to play every time we do a treatment, every time we think a thought, every time we create an idea that we want to bring forward. So I wanted to offer an application for this idea, because it is great. I mean, I can sit and meditate and read about and write about and think about these abstract ideas and know that they are making a difference in my life. But let's talk about a practical way to put it to work, to get consciously involved in allowing the masculine and the feminine, and today particularly the feminine energies, to be awake in you and be alive in you. How many of you have heard of the coronavirus? Right. Everybody has. The whole world is in a panic right now, and getting more so all the time. I talked to friends in California this week who are stocking up on water for some reason. And people are going into this mode of gathering up things as if the world's going to all break down and not be there. You know, the folks who talk about the stock market say the stock market is that corporations in this country cannot expect to make any profits this year because of the coronavirus. Reminds me a little bit of when we turned to the 20th century and everybody thought everything was going to crash. Now, I'm not here to perpetuate that idea or to push it forward, but to say that we all have to deal with it in our own way somehow. You have to have your answer. How do you think about? What do you think about? How do you feel about? What do you do about the coronavirus in your life, for your life? And I would suggest that in the masculine side, you treat for protection. You treat for healing. You treat for purity of health within your body. We know that our bodies are spiritual beings first. We are spiritual beings, and then we express into the physical. So that as we get clearer about the perfection of spirit within us, as us, our physical selves can respond accordingly. And we allow ourselves to clear away any ideas that we are anything less than the perfection of spirit. And we treat and we do that and we hold to that and we come back to it and we use our will and our strength to continue to go back to that place. And we find ourselves, as I did with my friend in California who was telling me all this horror story, getting all caught up in, oh dear, this is awful, this is what I'm going to do. Using my individual knowledge and ability and knowing this teaching as I do to come back to the truth within me. I am perfect health. I am protected. Now, we don't talk much about protection. We usually talk about we don't need protecting because we're divine beings, right? But we need to experience protection. And if you've ever been harmed or been in a position in your life where you weren't protected or you felt you needed protection, then you know that's a real feeling. And that's something we need to address as human beings. Emma Curtis Hopkins included in, she was the teacher of teachers. She was a teacher of Ernest Holmes and was an amazing person. We'll hear more about her next week. But she traveled the country teaching this teaching in the end of the 1800s, way before many women were even allowed to travel by themselves or thought of traveling by. She got rid of her husbands and she took off. Wore big flowing robes and stood on stages full of people and talked about this same teaching that we're talking about today. And she talked about protection as one of the qualities of spirit, because it is automatic that it is protecting us individually from the appearance of being connected to anything that would do us harm. And when her fear would kick in, or she felt that there was going to be something from the outside that might create a problem, she went to prayer. She went to what we now call spiritual mind treatment. She called it affirmative prayer. She also called it treatment, actually. You know, not just prayer. So it's a specific thing. So when we're faced with this fear-mongering that we're getting from all the media sources and all places around, I go to the CDC for my answers, and they're a little different than what you hear on the news. Doesn't matter. That's irrelevant, because what matters right now is taking ourselves in consciousness, using that ability and that masculine divine within us to set a direction and push it forward into creating a safety net for ourselves. And then there's the feminine aspect. That's that self-nurturing part of you. In hearing about the virus, what if ideas start to pop up? Well, maybe I need to really get more sleep. Maybe I need to really do some things to take care of my body in a way I haven't been doing. Drink more water. Whatever those ideas are that pop up inside of you are the whisper of the divine feminine saying, nurture, take care of yourself, and care for those around you. Part of the expression of the divine feminine is how we connect. It's the givingness of God to all. We talk about that. It's the givingness side of life. And so we give compassion to the people who are scared out of their minds. You know? Rather than doing what some people might do, or I have been tempted to a time or two, say, oh, just get over it. You know? Now, granted, you've got the power within you to get over it. My teacher used to say with anything like that, just get over it. It's not very compassionate. It didn't feel compassionate, although it was, because he always followed that by saying, because you have everything within you to get over anything, because you are greater individually than anything in your life so far. Wow, that's pretty cool. So find a way to be compassionate for those folks. You know, affirm and reaffirm your own safety, your own sense of being okay, your own feeling of life just being all right. And keep with that, until you can feel it and believe it, regardless of what's happening in the stock market or anyone else. Bring it back. Assert, affirm, and then gentle yourself if you aren't there yet, or if you have some space to go to get there. Imagine yourself as the parent, mom, dad, parenting your own inner physical being as you move through this crazy world we live in. Or maybe it's not so crazy, maybe it's just adventurous. Find your adjectives. Imagine what your good mom and good dad, the one that you imagined all along, regardless of the real one you had, which may have matched, it may not have. Imagine that parenting of yourself. What would you, as a good mom, say to you right now where you are in your life? See, I think that the divine feminine partly is there to tell us, honey, it's going to be okay. You're going to be all right. Whatever you are facing right now that may feel terrifying, that may look horrible, you're going to be okay. How many of us love to hear that from our moms? Not as a not facing what's going on. That's not the idea. It's not a bypass of what you're feeling. But it's saying, even in the midst of this feeling, underneath and behind it, there is more to you and me than meets the eye. We are more than any circumstance that can come to us. And it's a core idea of this teaching that we are only bound by external circumstances if we allow ourselves to be. That we have within us the power to rise above and outside of that. And that power is both nurturing and caring, and that power is strong and putting forward. Now, the next couple of weeks we're going to talk about the strength of the feminine. It's a little different approach. But there's that balance that's there and is always there for you. One of my sheroes, who is a minister in this teaching, I love her work. I love what she does. She is the person in a meeting, if there's conflict comes up that she jumps up and says, let's treat. Got to treat now. We're forgetting who we are. Or she just stands up and starts doing it and just talks over everybody. People get really irritated with her. I happen to absolutely adore her. Her name is Sue Rubin. She's a minister, been a minister for a long time. She's in her, well, she won't tell us for sure, but we're pretty sure she's in her 90s or close to it, and has been around and has done this for a long time. Here's what she says about some of this. That when faced with all of this, she says, I use truth not against anything else. I use treatment, she would say, not against anything else, but for something. Not by barricading the door and trying to shut it out. We can't pretend the virus is not there. That doesn't get us anywhere. But rather, to internalize the idea and the truth that there is no danger. God is present as me, in me, and is what I am. She goes on to say, I trust my inmost conviction that the principle of universal grace perpetually leads me to a spiritual practice to sharpen the saw of my faith. Because it's our faith we stand on at times when we are facing the fearful things. So that the tone and texture of my mystical relationship with the presence of love is the catalyst for the power of creative law. Your mystical connection with the presence of love empowers law to do its thing and come forward with that which you are desiring to see and have happen. It makes all things new, she says. I know and I trust that proclaiming the ultimate reality is evidence of my acceptance that this is the action and reaction of the One, through and as all that is inevitably. All manner of things shall be well. Gradually, gratefully, rather not gradually, gratefully, that's how it really is. That's her comment. Sue Rubin. Look her up on the internet. You'll find some pretty wonderful things there. So, I've told you about some of our spiritual leaders. This movement has a long history of honoring women. We were one of the first spiritual organizations in this country that ordained women, that recognized women. And in fact, Ernest Holmes, who was our founder for this particular organization, was ordained by a couple of women who were part of divine science. So we go back in honoring the masculine as it shows up the feminine as it shows up in women, and the goodness that brings to life. So I want to leave you with one more set of affirmations. This is from Emma Curtis Hopkins. This is what she writes in her material to be read every Thursday morning, by the way. My life is the life of spirit. My health is the health of spirit. My strength is the strength of spirit. My support is the substance of spirit. My protection is the power of spirit. My mind is the mind of spirit. My speech is the voice of spirit. I covenant, make an agreement. That's what a covenant is. I make an agreement with the Spirit to record my truth of who I am. I need not worry about it, fix upon it, she says, old-fashioned way of saying worrying about it. And I don't even need to write it down. Spirit's got this. So I invite you to join me, if you will, in a few moments of meditation and treatment. So take a moment and just breathe in. Let yourself become aware of that gentle, nurturing self that you are. Opening to the feeling, the awareness, the consciousness, the thought, whatever way it comes to you, of that gentle inner voice saying, It's okay. You're going to be all right. As we know, this wonderful loving power is what we are immersed in. So in this immersion, I invite you to be aware of bring anything up into your mind that is not okay, that is creating fear, that is creating anxiety, that is creating anything other than the awareness of that love. And let the love within you simply wrap it up, hold it, recognize it as not truth. We are divine beings. Because the infinite is forever, so are we. And we have the power in our thought to find peace. I am open to peace. I am open to harmony. I am open to the easy flow of life. And I choose, by action of this treatment, to participate in something other than fear. I choose to see the news as a call for prayer. I choose to see the awfulness, the ain't it awful stories as a call for prayer and for knowing better. And I choose to stand in my faith that finally and ultimately in the end, all is well. All is well in me right this moment. All is well in God. And all is well in the world. This is the truth. I let it be. And so it is. Thank you. Now Bob Townsend is going to come up and lead us in the prosperity celebration and later the announcements. So, thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Bob Townsend, and I am a member of your Board of Trustees. Now is your opportunity to support this center and its work through your giving. Thank you for all who have already given through your regular contributions and through Fellowship One. You are invited to do the same. Please join me in reading the Affirmation of Prosperity, which you'll find on the screen and on your program. I live
in the universe.
As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly, and so it is.